Let's go.
Let's go. Welcome to a witty analysis of feature films and light entertainment podcast.
Or as we like to call it,
Waffle.
Waffle.
Because that's what we do best. My name's Billy.
And I'm the one they call Sean.
Here we are. We haven't decided which one's the host yet, so
No.
we'll just crack on with this.
We'll just fight for it.
Now, so basically what we're up to here is just chatting about things that we like, which is films and light entertainment, and that hopefully this will be entertaining for people. If it's not, email in. Let us know.
Or don't listen.
Or don't listen. Yeah, you can stop. You can just not listen. That is an option. So
you don't have to like everything. It's fine.
yeah, exactly. We don't like everything, as you'll probably find out over the course of the next episode. We're not doing sort of like film news or anything like that. We're just going through films, TV. We're going to hit it with something, and then we'll carry on. Hopefully we'll have ads at this point, but right now, this is brought to you by us. We've paid for it all. We bought the things, we set everything up, and we've put a lot of work into it, so hopefully...
So listen, even though we said you don't have to.
So that's the intro taken care of. Moving in to our first segment, which we're going to be calling the film review section. This week, do we need to pause for a jingle?
Nah, it's fine. It'll play somewhere. Maybe here.
You edit that bit out of me saying, do we need to pause for a jingle?
I might just keep it in, see how I feel.
The film review section. This week, we decided to watch Mank. We decided. Sean suggested it, and then as soon as I saw the credits pop up, I thought, fuck, it's Gary Oldman. Well, there's swearing in this, by the way. Kids.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay.
I've marked it on the thing anyway, so it's fine. Yeah, Gary Oldman. I'm like, Sean's tricked me into watching a Gary Oldman film. But then you got to the "and Charles Dance," and I'm like, all right, maybe. And then it said directed by David Fincher. I knew nothing about this film going in, by the way. I hadn't heard anything of it. And I'm like, I like David Fincher films. This could be good. I'm in.
Well, all I knew about it was who it was about and like what this it was about writing Citizen Kane, and Gary Oldman was in it. That's all I knew.
Right.
And Amanda Seyfried. That's the only thing I knew about it. I was surprised when I saw Charles Dance and David Fincher. I was even more surprised when Charles Dance was doing an American accent.
I didn't even notice, to be honest. I did not notice that. So there we go.
It's basic, but it's there.
So what we're going to do with this then is we're going to go through a bit of a synopsis, then we're going to give you general thoughts, non-spoilers, and then we'll go into a spoiler section. We'll clearly mark it, so feel free to listen up until then, and we'll put it in the show notes, hopefully, if we can figure out how to do that. So, Sean, do you want to do synopsis?
Yes, I will. It's about Mank. It's about Manchester and people in it. No, it is about Herman Mankiewicz, the guy who wrote Citizen Kane. It's about him writing Citizen Kane, the kind of the stuff he was going through at the time. And it flashes back to sort of like, what would it work out as? Maybe, I'd have done the math, 6 years earlier, something like that, 7 years earlier.
Yeah.
It's about that.
That'll do. And
things that sort of lead up to where he sort of comes up with the ideas. Would you say that? That's kind of what it was getting at.
Yeah, aye.
And that's pretty much it, as basic as it can be. It's like, it's about a guy who's broke his leg, he's convalescing, and he's writing a film at the same time.
Yeah.
He's got a bit of a drink problem.
That's it. I mean, there isn't really much to tell, and that's sort of one of the things for me was narratively, there's not a lot of meat there. You've got to like it for other reasons than the story of it, because it's just a story of a guy who writes a screenplay.
That's the thing, and I think I did a little bit of reading up, and I think his career started to like slow down a bit by that point, and he kind of lost a bit of credibility. He lost a bit of sort of like his standing within Hollywood.
Yeah. Well, clearly has. I mean, they clearly put that into the film, didn't they? So yeah.
And he was very sort of outspoken about what he thought about people and things like that. And I think it showed like the drink sort of bringing that out a bit. And then so he's kind of like lost his footing, and then he's got this idea, and this young upstart 24-year-old for some reason gets sway and complete creative control in Orson Welles. And like, I just want to know more about that. Like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
Like, how did this 24-year-old come out of seemingly nowhere? And like, yeah, do what you want.
It was. I mean, it was an odd start, but I mean, the way they sort of structured the film does emulate Citizen Kane itself, and I know you haven't seen it and things like that, but
It's
yeah,
one on my many list of.
aye, it wasn't
Well,
mine for years, and then
classics,
and I finally got around
but
to it. And no, the greatest film ever made, yeah, it probably is, but I didn't really like it all that much. I've just rewatched it again after having watched Mank, just to see a lot of things, and I reckon this is definitely a film where if you've watched Citizen Kane or if you love Citizen Kane, you'll get way more out of this. It's like, I suppose it's like watching a film of something that you're really into. If someone told me how, did a film of making of Back to the Future or something, that I'd be way more into that because I know that film a lot better, sort of thing. So if you're into Citizen Kane, yeah, it'll be great. I would say that, like, if I hadn't been watching it for this, I'd actually checked, because 27 minutes in, I'd have been gone. It wasn't. The pace is really slow to start, sort of thing. It's like I didn't know what it was about. It's not about Manchester, which I thought it might have been. And it was getting into it, and I'm like, it's just not going anywhere. It just doesn't seem like it's going to be interesting. I did like, though, I really, really liked the style of it. Like the way the film looks is brilliant. I looked it up. It's Eric Messerschmidt who did the cinematography, and correct me if I'm wrong, because we know really nothing about any of this. We're just two guys who like films and all that sort of stuff. You may know a bit more than me. The lighting in this was amazing. I thought the way they used it.
That stood out to me.
Yeah,
especially because obviously it's in black and white. Me, I don't mind that kind of stuff, but a lot of modern audiences will have like problems with it. But that's one thing that stood out for me was the lighting, even though it's black and white. It was very. And one thing I noticed quite a few times as well. I don't know how often it happened, because a bit of background here. I'm blind in one eye, so I only see left.
The cigarette burns.
But I noticed. Yeah, I noticed that a couple of times. I was like, how many times is that?
I think I noticed it for the first time about 12
right.
minutes in. I didn't check, but I think
it was probably about an hour before.
Oh, right, yeah, they're quite regular. It's sort of like, it's almost every time there's a scene change, I think. I suppose that's how the film's paced. I think traditionally they have other things going on as well. As there's like sort of cracks in the screen and all that sort of stuff. Maybe the hair on the film and all that sort of stuff. They kind of emulate that stuff, and they have hazed it as well. They've sort of like they've made it fuzzier, so it's not. It was shot apparently in 8K, whatever that means. But it doesn't look like it. I mean, not my telly anyway, does it?
Yeah. I was watching it on my laptop, so yeah.
But yeah, just brilliant. Just really good work from Eric Messerschmidt, who I don't think's done too many films. He did another one with Fincher, but he's on Legion on TV as well. But yeah, just beautiful. I mean, the way they told the story through light a bit as well. When you could tell it was a flashback because it went a bit darker or it went a bit lighter, or the way they showed the scenes and all that sort of stuff, I thought was really good.
Well, that's one thing I never really thought about that as much in terms of like light for like flashbacks and that. But it's kind of because I liked how like when it was a flashback, it'd tell you like at the screen. It'd tell you like they were setting out a script, which
I like that little
really
thing, like the interior, external sort of thing, day and all that sort of
and then brackets flashback, which I thought was quite cool. But now that you said that as well, it's like the light kind of changed a bit when it was flashback. So maybe they didn't need it, but because the style it was in, old typewriter type stuff, and it was the actual typewriter sound was coming up when it was typing across the screen. Again, it's old Hollywood writing, so it's like it works.
And as with Citizen Kane, sort of, then the flashbacks get darker as it goes through. Everything becomes a bit more sparse. The emptiness of the central character sort of comes across a bit more. Maybe. Yeah, we're not getting into spoilers there. We're saying that, I don't think. But yeah, they do that really well. I'll stop there because I don't want to spoil anything for anybody who actually wants to watch it. But that element to me was really good. The cinematography, the lighting, and all that sort of stuff. Brilliant. The score as well, I thought. Not intrusive, because I just rewatched Citizen Kane again, and it's all that big stuff that's just it's a bit too dramatic for what's actually going on the screen. A lot of the time with all the films I find. But with this one, it seemed
a lot of films back then were it's like that, isn't it? Because I think not brand new, but scoring a film back then it's like the way they used score had just started to change. Obviously, a lot of the time it was telling the story, because it was silent film, so they used it for like, and I think then it got a bit more sort of like narrative, maybe a bit more dramatic. Because I think apparently, was it Gone with the Wind? I think was the first time it was used the way like we don't recognise music in the film now.
Right. Okay.
If that makes sense, it's kind of like more sort of like character rather than just it's a funny scene, so we'll be a bit upbeat. It's getting dramatic.
Right, okay.
So instead of like, it's a bit more sort of like telling the story. So I think that obviously back then it was sort of like in your face because it was the way they were using it was relatively new, and it just sort of had to be a bit bombastic and stuff. But like I said, I've never seen Citizen Kane yet, so I'm guessing Mank is like you said, it's emulating in a way the style of Citizen Kane, telling the story of how it was made, basically.
And clearly, you don't have to have seen Citizen Kane to enjoy this because you've watched to watch it anyway. You've watched it. There are things that you will get, and I mean, I'll have missed loads. I got some of them, but the size of the sets and the way things look, the angles of the cameras and all that sort of thing. The big sort of Xanadu type castle thing that Charles Dance, who is the Citizen Kane of this sort of thing. Is that a spoiler?
Well, I think
not really, because it's based on real life.
Yeah, that's the thing. You can't spoil something that's based in real life.
But yeah, the score anyway that was on about. It's really sort of evocative of the era, but it's not intrusive. Like it's like I said that before. It doesn't sort of come across as intrusive on the scene. It's there. It looks like you're watching an old film, but it's not beating you over the head with it. And it's original, but it's enough like a lot of music of that era from films, or music of that era when they go to sort of like clubs and all that sort of stuff. It's got enough of that in it to give you that sense, hasn't it? I thought
it doesn't like you said. It's more sort of like, what's the word I'm trying to think of here? It like accompanies it. It doesn't like it's subtle. It's subtle, but you notice it, which is really weird. It's like the
cinematography. Like, after a while, find yourself enjoying it, but you do see it happening, don't you? You hear it happening.
Definitely. So, in general, then, what did you think about? Was it a film that you'd recommend to people? Do you like it? Do you think it'll be on any lists, like top 10 lists in the future?
To me, so just overall, I would say if you think you're going to like this film, then give it a watch. If you don't think you're going to like this film, then you probably won't. I really, on viewing, I really didn't. In trying to unpick it for this, I found a sort of probably a better understanding of what they were trying to do. But I admired a lot of the technical aspects of it, performances. Gary Oldman, Amanda Seyfried. There's the guy who I recognise from TV, Toby Leonard Moore, who he has a great scene and all that sort of stuff. And I enjoyed individual scenes, but I think there's a line in the film that I think sort of sums it up quite well. And let me see. You can't tell this, and it's one that Gary Oldman actually says himself as Mank. You can't tell the story of a man's life in 2 hours.
Yeah, I'll pick up on that when you said that.
And I think that's deliberate. They put that in the script, and he almost turns to the camera when he says that, because that's basically my problem with this film, is that it's the story of I won't, again, not going into too much to spoil it, but it is the story of a guy writing a script. He has a bit of a tiff with his boss or his employer. He's having a bit of a time of it. You see why in flashbacks. That's it. But it's not dramatic in any real way. It's just a story.
I think it's like, it reminds me. I mean, there's nothing like this film, but like it was the middle of last year whenever it came out. I watched that. Is it Devil All the Time? Is that what it's called? With Batman and Spider-Man and Dudley Dursley.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Winter Soldier.
Yeah, Winter Soldier. They're all there. And I like that film. It was a decent film. Very good, but the performances more than anything stood out for me. And it's kind of the same with Mank. I mean, I liked it. I'm not going to shout at the rooftops, people watch this film. But it was more like the performances just stood out for me. But again, they're different level of performances. Like Devil All the Time, very dramatic, very a tough watch at times. And the performances were sort of loud in a good sense. They're very more sort of subtle and sort of quiet here, but they're very, Gary Oldman could just read a phone book and be a phenomenal actor, in my opinion. He doesn't. It's like he doesn't try.
Oh yeah, and don't get me wrong. As I've said to you before, but I want to make it clear. I do think he's a brilliant actor, Gary Oldman. I just personally don't like watching him, but I can see the craft in what he does every time I see him. I just, for some reason, it's just it's an analogy.
Yeah,
that's all.
Do you know what I noticed about him?
It's not his fault.
In what I like about him. In me, again, a bit of background, I studied acting, and I was never very good at voices or accents. Nearly everything he does is not just a different accent, a different voice. Mm-hmm. I don't know how he does it. It's like everything. Like when someone's doing an accent, sometimes you can tell, oh, that's so and so try to do or maybe accomplishing that accent. Mm-hmm. the tone of the voice is always kind of similar. It's always there.
Yeah.
Not with him. Like nearly everything he does, it's a different voice.
Yeah,
really...
it changes his voice. It changes the pacing of his voice, the accent, the inflections. It even comes through in his physicality as well. Yeah. I think you can see it come. The voice comes from the entire character that he builds and things like that.
And even like I was going to say, and like I know it was probably going to turn up at one point. Didn't think it'd turn up on the very first episode. I love Doctor Who. And do you know the guy who played what was the character's name? His friend, the English guy who was helping him out when he was being like recuperating. I'll find it. It's very here.
I don't know.
I should have double checked straight away. But John Houseman, the character who, like the English guy who sort of brings him to that place with Lily Collins to recuperate.
Yeah.
He is played by Sam Troughton, who is the second Doctor, Patrick Troughton's grandson. Like I recognised him. I knew the face. But he was also in the British TV series Robin Hood.
To be fair, though, if you've got a British actor in something, there will be like sort of a couple of links to get them to Doctor Who.
There'll be
everyone's been in Doctor Who.
His dad's in 2 episodes of Doctor Who. There's another bit around. His dad was in 2 episodes in both eras, classic and new. But yeah, I could start on Doctor Who already. That's not a good sign.
So is there anything else that you want to say about it before we get into spoilers?
Pretty much summed up. I mean, if it's not really high drama. There is obviously bits of drama, there's bits of tension here and there and stuff like that. I mean, the scene, again, not going into too much spoiler, but the scene of like looked like a fancy dress party, and he turns up drunk, and he basically declares, "This is the story I'm going to do," and he just tears down Charles Dance's character, and that was an amazing scene, brilliant scene.
Yeah,
that. It's not really dramatic. It's more like you don't feel awkward for him, but you're going to say something wrong in a minute. You're going to say something.
I was going to save this for spoilers, but Charles Dance earns the "and," doesn't he?
Oh yeah.
Because in the credits he gets blah 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 credits everybody that's in it and Charles Dance. And when I watched the film, I was like, oh, that's what he got the "and" for. He got his "and" there, didn't he? Given that this is a film about credits.
yeah. The guy who played Orson Welles was pretty good as well. Like he was very good in it.
First scene I thought that was Michael Shannon. Obviously it's not. But from the back I was like, is that Michael Shannon? Can't really see, only part of his face.
But again, he's an English guy. There's a lot of English people in that film. But I mean that's the one thing I took away from was the performances. Mm-hmm. And again, it was directed really well. It was like. It was done, but you could tell there was a sort of place of, even though I've never seen Citizen Kane.
It was written by David Fincher's late father as well.
Was it? I saw the name was the same. I didn't know the link between them, but yeah.
His dad's recently passed, so it's sort of a passion thing for him as well. So I don't want to rail on it too hard either for that reason,
Right, so
spoilers.
Spoil it for people.
Spoilers.
Spoil it.
Right, biggest spoiler for me is I'm on Orson Welles' side in this. And I mean, I know that might be like saying, "Oh, well, Darth Vader was just trying to protect all the guys on the Death Star." But the guy signed a contract.
Yeah,
he signed a contract to say, "Right, I'm gonna ghostwrite this script." And then when he realised, "Oh, I've done my best work in my life here," he's like, "I want credit for it." And Orson Welles, to his credit as well, was saying, "Well, hey, you wouldn't have managed to do that if I hadn't have given you everything that I gave you. I created this for you to be able to do this, and you on the understanding that you were going to ghostwrite it for me." That said, I actually thought Orson Welles wrote it up until I checked my DVD case. So,
Well, that's the thing. I think I'm right in saying his only Oscar was the co-writing that, and he didn't write it. That's the only Oscar he won.
Yeah. But to be fair to him as well, I mean, like, it's been looked into and all that. I'm not really going to talk about that because I don't know much about the thing. But, apparently, Orson Welles did do writing on it. But also, Mank gets first credit, and then it's Orson Welles. So he ended up with the credit for writing the screenplay. So I don't see why that was a problem.
And Orson Welles obviously produced it, directed it, was in it. Mm-hmm. He probably did the catering.
Sing the theme tune, write the theme tune.
But me being liking to do a bit of writing, would like to write stuff one day. The writer in me was kind of going, "No, you fight for that, you fight for that." But then you're right. He signed the contract, and it's like, "Oh yeah, I've actually done a masterpiece here."
Yeah. And I mean, the thing is, all it was he was having to do his job for once, because the rest of the time he just sat about and fucking gambled and stuff like that. And then they all just like threw bits of information at each other and goes, "There's a fucking script, make that." That's all they did for like the whole time, and no wonder they were like, "Oh, we're getting loads of money for this. It's going to be a nightmare when this gravy train ends." Yeah, everyone would think that. Everyone would think, "Oh, I really hope I get to make this kind of cash for doing nothing forever. That'd be great." But then someone made him do his actual job. Turns out he was really good at it. And then he got annoyed.
And it did, it kind of it rejuvenated his career again for a bit after that. So I think I can't remember the exact details, but I don't think anything he did was as sort of critically well received or became as infamous as Citizen Kane. But he had commercial success again a couple of times after that. So
yeah.
It was kind of thanks to Orson Welles and Gum, like you give him the opportunity.
Aye. I mean, and the thing is as well, that alcohol was a problem for him. If you're struggling with something like that, you might not see the bigger picture, or it clearly, as is, if Orson Welles was even giving him something on a plate, then maybe he was clouded by the fact that he was steamed most of the time. There's a good chance of that. Other thing I was going to say is, like, while I didn't like the whole thing overall, as I've already said, I liked a lot of elements of it, thought it was technically great. Directing, like you said, brilliant. Score, great. Cinematography, great. Scenes, I loved individual scenes. What one was I thinking of? The LB Mayer walk and talk while he takes them with a new kid through the lot. I thought was brilliant. Then he goes in and then he cuts everyone's pay in half, and then he comes back out and he's like, boom. And then what was it? Mank says, he's like, "That's not even the worst thing I've seen him do."
Yeah. Obviously, I don't know a lot about him, but I'm fascinated by that style, especially MGM. In that time, it was only a couple of years before that they did The Wizard of Oz and stuff like that, so they're riding pretty high. I'm sure they did Gone with the Wind and other couple of films like that. So when Mank was getting made, like, apparently that Louis B. Mayer was kind of like just not a tyrant, that's probably not the, but he was just sort of like a businessman,
fairly ruthless in business.
It was just, from what, obviously I don't know, I never met the guy, but from what I can gather from what I've heard, it was just kind of like, and which is fair enough to an extent. We need to make money. Make me money. I don't care how it's done. I don't care who you are.
Which,
make me money. And
that's how these guys operate. For all that we love Kevin Feige for his Marvel movies, I got Marvel in there. Look at that. I think I can do it. But I bet Kevin Feige's ruthless as hell. He chops people's heads off and stuff like that, I reckon. Drinks baby blood and all that sort of thing.
Because you have to, at the end of the day, it is a business. You want to make films, you need to make money. You need to make money, make films. And it's just, you've got to...
one thing I think was another good performance from him. I didn't really think of his as a performance. I just really enjoyed every time he popped up, sort of thing. The first scene in the big sort of dining hall when it was his birthday, as well, where you first meet Charles Dance and all that sort of thing, that big scope of that room. I wonder if they got the same fireplace from Citizen Kane. Do you know that fireplace? Fireplace is a massive thing in Citizen Kane sort of thing anyway. And it looks like it's the same thing. Whether they got the same one or not, I don't know. But it definitely looks like that. That scene I really loved. And I really liked the Toby Leonard Moore scene outside the funeral. He gets the best fuck you. Because he's just stood outside and then just talking about it. He's like, "Oh, Mank, it's a real shame. It's like, you should come by the offices." And he's like, "I did come by your office. I didn't get by secretary's secretary." And he just goes, "Oh, really?" Boom. And off he goes. And you're like, "Oh, that's a scene stealer there, isn't it?" I mean, he's really good as an actor.
I was going to mention him and L.B. Mayer's sort of like, what's his name? Thalberg. Because it was again, it's real life. So it was at his character's funeral. That is it Irvin Thalberg? Anyway, like, I've saw pictures of them in real life because I watched it's like a 5-hour behind the scenes story of The Wizard of Oz, which in itself would make a cracking film. And they were involved in MGM at the time, so you saw pictures of them, and they looked really like the guys they played. Those two, it's like you could be forgiven for thinking that they've got them. They've got the real guys. They really look like them. But that's the thing. Even like the smaller parts like that, and like sort of like the background characters, like they do, like all the performances were standout, like really good. Like none of them are going like anything they can like sing and dance and show. Like, look at me, look what I can do. They're very sort of understated roles, but they're all done like really well. And I think one scene, like going back to like amazing scenes and stuff, the scene that follows that big birthday party scene for B. Mayer, when Amanda Seyfried and Gary Oldman just walk around the gardens of the castle, and in like there's a zoo there,
That zoo's very, very Citizen Kane.
But it looked amazing. It looked like it was just spot on. It was like it was filmed in the late 30s, early 40s.
What was it? It made me want to go to LA then and look around studios and stuff like that, look around backlots and stuff. And that, like, you're right there. There was a weird thing about that scene where I thought the light in there, it always seemed like it was just about to be dawn. They seemed to go out in the middle of the night, and then as soon as they started walking around, it was almost like it was dawn coming up. Like, I don't know why, it was odd. And then there was another one, a similar thing when we were talking about lightning, when he was outside the house, and someone came to visit him, and there was sort of like the moon was coming up, and everything, that looked really odd. Just the way they set that scene was just bizarre. Sort of give it a bit of a trippy feel. Like.
That's the thing, 'cause, like, obviously with black and white, like, everything in, like, back then was pretty much all filmed indoors as much as it could be in studios. But you look at things like It's a Wonderful Life. The scene when near the end of that, when he's running through the snow, it looks freezing, and it looks really cold. And, like, I shiver every time I watch it. There's just kind of similar things with this, like when the sun's beaming through his window and he's lying in bed.
you can feel that hangover, can't you?
I felt, and I felt stuffy, and I was like, oh, shut the curtains. And it's just, it's really, it's weird in black and white. They really got sort of like the feeling, like the light, the darkness, the heat. It kind of was all. It felt cozy when they were in that. And I think what's his name, Charles Dance's character, he did build himself a castle apparently in real life.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
And like. When they're in the castle, it looks like when they're next to the fire, it looks quite cozy. It looks very. It feels like it would be very hollow when you talk. Your voice would.
Well, that's a big thing in Citizen Kane, like where he amasses a great wealth and buys all this artwork and builds himself a sort of a tribute to himself and has the grandest things and all that sort of stuff, and it sort of becomes about the hollowness that is. So that giant castle is an allegory for the guy's life and how, you know, you can fill your life full of things and it's still empty. Which I thought another allegory I thought was great in them, which is sort of allegorical for the entire film, was the organ grinder's monkey parable. I really enjoyed that. That's the Charles Dance scene when he's leading him out the door. Now, Mank mentions it earlier on, you know, and the sort of Lily Collins asks him, you know, why are you here? And he's like, the organ grinder's monkey. And I've never really heard it said that way. You know how the organ grinder, so the monkey gets dressed up in this bow tie and all that sort of thing, and then goes out and dances, and you think, oh, you know, it's great, I'm dancing. Every time I dance, this organ grinder gets to play his music. Wouldn't it be a shame for this organ grinder if I didn't dance? So I'll keep dancing because it's nice for him, isn't it? Bless him. Meaning that, you know, Mank is the monkey and the organ grinder is Charles Dance. Get out my house. I was keeping you here for my entertainment, basically, sort of thing. I thought, was brilliant. And that just sort of puts him in, like you said, like it puts him in his place then, sort of thing. And that sort of, it encapsulates what the whole film's about, and you find out why he was. Because basically at the end of the film, you know what he knows at the start. Sort of thing. Like you look back on it, you, so.
I wish I made a note of it, but the last line of the film, when he's standing with his Oscar.
Oh, yeah. He says, I'll accept this. Orson will accept this in the same way that he did when in the script, which is to say he's not here or something like that. Yeah, aye.
Yeah. And I was like, shots fired.
Bitch. Harold Mankiewicz, or whatever his name is. No, it's Herman Mankiewicz, sorry.
Herman.
You know his name, what's from. So I reckon, having talked about this with you and like gone into it more and like tried to pull it apart, I've got a better appreciation for this film than I would have done just watching it. Like, definitely, I've enjoyed this conversation and stuff like that. It's sort of it's nice to bounce things off and see that, you know, we either thought same or differently, sort of thing. What do you reckon in this weird world and time that we're in for awards for this?
Well, me personally, I don't know if they should do awards this coming year.
If it was though,
because it's kind of like, if it was, I think it'd get cinematography. Production design. Gary Oldman will get nominated.
I think he will, just because he's Gary Oldman. And like I know it. I probably just because he is that good. I just ignore him because he's always that good. So
yeah. It's like in the same sense like Meryl Streep. It's like she's going
like
to be
awesome. Put Meryl Streep in a film, so we'll nominate her. Remember that? What was it? Into the Woods.
Yeah. I mean, she's awesome in it, but I wouldn't say she's as Oscar worthy, but she's awesome. But yeah, writing maybe. I mean, was it based on it? Was there a book before? I know
Yeah,
it's
I don't
based on
know.
a
That
true
would be
story,
actually,
but
I suppose it'd be quite nice, wouldn't it? Given that David Fincher made this based off his dad's
yeah,
script and his dad's past, like a posthumous thing, would be nice. I can't really
yeah.
think because I haven't really seen enough films to know. That's why I asked you, because I
Well,
haven't seen
that's the
enough
thing.
films this year to
Yeah,
know what is likely to be nominated or anything like that. So
but I don't like. I mean, this could be another topic for another day. But I don't think because there hasn't been enough that's been like out this year, and it's like there could be a handful of things, and it's like to me, it's sort of like a lot of the films that would have come out in a normal year probably
yeah.
aren't good enough. So they'll probably be getting nominations and that and awards
Ooh,
that they
Trailers
might not
Chicago
really
7.
deserve.
I reckon that could
Never
get a
seen that
couple if
yet.
it goes to. Yeah.
I want to watch it. It's
Yeah.
it's on my list to get watching and stuff. But
So should we push on to the next section? Do you reckon before we, given that we're halfway
yes,
through our
let's
run
because
time?
we're just kicking over time for that. Yeah,
Right. So
let's do it.
next section.
Lovely intro.
Cool. So this is a section where we're going to review one or two episodes of a TV series. This week, since series 2's coming out, we've decided to go with Snowpiercer episode 1 and 2. We both watched these. I've already seen series 1. Sean hasn't, so this could be interesting. I'll try not to spoil anything for him and for everyone else who's listening. So we're going to go full spoilers for this. If you haven't seen Snowpiercer at all, go away, watch the first 2 episodes, come back, listen to this. Or if you don't care about spoilers, carry on. Here we go. So this is the TV series, executive produced by Bong Joon-ho as well, based loosely on his original film from 2013, which was based on the French book about Snowpiercer. Did you see the original film?
I didn't know.
It was difficult to find. It didn't come out yet until like 2 years ago.
And I didn't realize.
Yeah,
that
Bong
he
Joon-ho. Well, when I
directed
watched Parasite, I thought
it.
he's made his film again. Then has he? Because it's sort of like, I mean, he isn't just that. He's the very different films, and he's got different styles and all that sort of thing. But he does seem to want to tackle class systems within any society, sort of thing. He's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder about that sort of thing. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but yeah, the original film, Chris Evans, Jamie Bell, Tilda Swinton. Tilda Swinton sort of played the Jennifer Connelly role from the series, sort of thing.
Right.
I thought it was fine.
I looked at the cast list for the film, and I've noticed, like, as far as I'm aware, the characters are all different characters. So I think from what I can gather, they've just got the basic idea.
I mean,
just give it a bit of a
the
revamp
film
for the
basically
series, and then...
is the tale. They push forward. They find out what's in the food, which I won't spoil for you because I don't know whether that comes out in the series. It hasn't yet, has it? Or maybe it does. I think Jennifer Connelly maybe mentions it. A nod to it.
I think there's
So anyway, they find out. They go through the things, and then they take over the train. Basically, is the film. Obviously, that doesn't happen here. But yeah, I'd actually quite like to read the book. I think, based on the 2 different interpretations that we've seen. I thought the film was fine. I like this a lot more. The opening, like, I just made some notes as I was going through it, and I've got animated open. Yes, it's like it looks like you would imagine the graphic novel to be. David Diggs voiceover, poetry. It's just, I could listen to that guy read anything, like you said with Gary Oldman. And then just what an opening! Like the first 3 minutes.
Yeah. What I've got here is I loved how the animation turned into the live action.
Really good. Quite a big sort of Asian anime style thing. They do that a lot, don't they? Where it fades.
But I kind of looked away for a second, like. I think maybe my phone vibrated, so I looked down, what's that? I looked back up and it was live action. I was like, have I missed something? So I had to go back because it just changed. And I was like, oh, that's cool. That. But I've got that. I've got it's like they're invading the train, and I just love that. Like, they just turned. But yeah, because I don't really know anything about it, like straight away, they set up the mythology straight away for people who are coming new. In obviously, I've not seen it, but from what I can kind of gather, is a kind of it's recognisable to people who might know the book or might know the original film, but they're not alienating the newcomers.
And it is stacked as a first episode, isn't it? Episode 1, I wrote that at the end. I'm like, so much went on in this, and you learn, like you said, as a new viewer, you've got, right, that's what happened, that's the history of it. Now we've got the current structure, which you go through and you see it all, and then you've got the introductions to the characters. It's really well, as a pilot, absolutely bang on for me.
And the one thing is, it's not a bad thing, but I've seen the first 2 episodes. I am kind of like trying to remember what was in the first episode and what was in the second. It was sort of like one big episode.
I went through it in order, so I can give you basically what I put down as the hits. So you're in the tail. They get the food delivery, which is half rations. They're building a strong boy, which I loved, and they're also feeding the rats. Yeah. I thought that was pretty cool. I did wonder why they didn't just cut the heat into the tail. If you cut the heat to the tail, they'll all die. They'll stop being your problem. You can even just cut the car off. I don't know what they need them for.
That's one. I'll be honest. That's crossed my mind. Yeah. Why don't they just get rid of it?
So you get introduced to what's going on down there. They're planning a rebellion. Leighton's kind of holding back a little bit. He's getting pushed by everyone, sort of thing. Should I do like a rapid refresh? Let's see if I can do this. So he's getting a bit of pushback. They're going to try and invade the whole train and go far up, but he doesn't think they know enough about the train. So he wants to learn more so that they've got a better idea so they can make a bigger push. They then take you out and they've got the people in drawers, and they've got this guy who's just brushing people's hair and all that sort of stuff. He's creepy. He's probably doing some fingering or something as well. So then you go up. Then you go up to the top of the train where you've got the first class people, and they're all just total assholes, and they're like way removed from everything, and that's sort of what the top tier societies generally are. You've got a struggle between, they're about to do a rebellion, they're about to do it, Leighton gets pushed into it, and then just as that's about to happen, he gets dragged out because they're taking him away. There's been a murder on the train. He's the detective from Yore, and he can, so he's the best person who's going to be able to solve this murder. He doesn't want to do it because he thinks that the tail will think he's a traitor and they'll slit his throat as soon as he goes back. Meanwhile, they're still planning a rebellion. He reluctantly gives in and says he's going to do it. There's a guy who tops himself whilst listening to Rachmaninoff, getting naked at the Sea Life Centre with that Asian woman at the top of the train, and then they do a rebellion. The kid takes a hand to open the door, which is creepy as hell. Most of them get killed. There's a massive slaughter. Yes. They get 4 cars in. It's a massive failure. Leighton goes, surrender yourself to the drawers. In you go. And that's it. And so he negotiates a surrender. Does that help?
Yes, because something I was going to say isn't in that refresh, so it must be episode 2. So
I don't mind. We're doing spoilers for everything, so you can say whatever you want anyway. Episodes 1 and 2.
Yeah, no, but we'll get to the we'll get to episode 2. But I like the whole it's like a modern, a futuristic upstairs downstairs kind of pretty much. It's like I've got apart from they're not butlers and stuff, but.
I forgot the thing. At the end, Jennifer Connelly goes to the front of the train, sits in the seat. Is that what you were going to say? And then that guy turns around and goes, "You have the train, Mr. Wilford." And you're like, wow, because Ed Harris was Mr. Wilford in the film.
I'm looking for a character name, but I can't find it. But he's pretty much like the guy who tries to get the rebellion pushed forward, and Leighton's trying to hold them back a bit. And he's like the main guy who's trying to force everybody forward and that, and get everybody to kick off. That's Pike. That's a guy. He annoyed me, but you're not meant to like him, I don't think. So that was fine. But it's just to me, it's like class things can annoy me sometimes, and I don't like watching things when it's a whole class divide, and it's it's done.
Yeah, it is. It's the story you've seen before,
and then it annoys me. Because there's no sort of sympathizer either way. Everybody's the same. Everyone's sort of all the upper class are all snooty. All the lower class are all, hard done by. And there's no sort of in between kind of.
I think as it goes on, there's a lot of sort of nuance to it as well. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is this one's only episode 1 and 2, so that'll develop. But what I did like is how as they're going through the train, there's a different world in each bit of the train.
Aye.
I like that. I like how it's, and I like that SeaWorld type. That was random. I was like, how have we done this? What's happening?
How has she got a Sea Life Centre and the people at the back of the train can't even have their own rat? It's It just doesn't seem fair, does it? You know, and like you've got the copper who's like one of my favourite lines from that. He's like, they want to breed back there now. Come on, mate. Like, these people are humans. The difference between them and you is you happen to have the right job at the right time when the Earth was.
And from what because I was questioning to begin with, like, who cares? Just if they've snuck on, just don't go down. Let them have their own little world. It's like,
like, give them a couple of cars or whatever. Like you've got.
But that's what I was going to say. That before they like a lot of the time say, "Well, we paid to get on you," you know, your stowaway type things. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, well, just leave them to it. Like, what's the point? I just don't. I was like, just let them do it. It would be a boring series if that was the case. But it's just like how like there wasn't very many likable characters. I don't think to begin with. You're suspicious of everybody, which is good. Yeah, but.
You know who you're meant to like, but that doesn't necessarily mean I will.
Exactly. But there's a couple of I'm only 2 episodes in, but there's a few bits into like I don't like them, I don't like anybody at the minute. like because even like the good guys, I mean everyone's flawed, but it's just like obviously you're meant to like David Diggs, and he at some point just comes across arrogant, and maybe he's meant to, but yeah, I mean one thing not that I didn't like, I just thought it was a bit unnecessary, was the amount of sort of violence. It's like violence is violence, but it was a bit too graphic. I don't think you needed it. I don't think the all the blood and the bits of guts.
I think it helps so that you see the sort of dynamic within the tail area, doesn't it? Because you've got your David Diggs who, like, he's definitely your leader guy. You know, people can see that in him. He's Jesus. But but the other guys, you can see their frustrations. They're like, look, we're just sick of this. You might be thinking, oh yeah, I've been waiting for all this time for the revolution. I think it's time now, so let's go. And I think you kind of had to see the slaughter because people who've seen the film, that they get beat back a bit, but they actually, within the course of an hour and a half of the film or 2 hours, they get all the way up the train. So I think it was quite good to get to like car 4 and it's just like everyone's dead. They didn't make it. It didn't work.
To me, it was like breaking folks' necks and cutting folks' throats. But it was like, in that little last running with the hand, it was just, but to me it's because the one thing I was going to say, which is in episode 2.
I'll crack on, go on episode 2 now, that's fine.
But was when that last, to take her arm.
Yeah.
The woman.
I've got written down in my notes, I was like, they were actually going to do the kid.
Yeah. But even like without that, it's like when they take the woman's arm, that is like, that's torture, it's horrible. And I think that would have stood out a bit more if the end of the first episode wasn't so bloody and gutsy and the horror of freezing someone's arm and shattering it into a million pieces.
I actually thought that. I thought, well, initially it'd be cold, but then you wouldn't feel a thing, so it'd be fine.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously, days afterwards you're like shivering and you've got frostbite and all that sort of stuff. That's not great.
But the actual utter freezing of the arm to begin with, in the pit with the cows.
Yeah.
Start to like freeze.
When the actual freezing of it all is brilliant, and like
because it looks so brutal. Because when you see people freezing Batman and Robin with Mr. Freeze, it just looks funny. But it looked painful and slow and horrendous.
The one thing I thought about episode 2 though is it's very sexy.
Yeah,
like you had getting naked at the Sea Life Centre in the first one, but I mean in this one, you go into like the night car, and in any other TV series that would have just been a brothel. But it's not a brothel. This is like better than that. But then, when just as you find out it's not a brothel, then David Diggs goes, "The fuck it isn't," and then just has sex with that woman. So he's that. And then there's that football guy getting a paracetamol blowjob because he's trying to dish out drugs and stuff like that. Like so, it's very sexy this episode. It is. And Leighton putting things in his ass as well.
Yeah, I do love that bit near the end though when he's like. When he's trying to get the
map.
Yeah. And he's like, takes one for the team pretty much and just like...
He does take a beating there, didn't he?
Gets the absolute crap kicked out of him.
I want that to happen to the football guy. Because I quite like the female officer, what's her name? The Mickey Sumner. I really like her. Like, even though she's not the greatest, you know, she's got something to her. Like, now.
Yeah, you think... Sort of see that. She's probably maybe going to come around a bit and like... She's going to be one of them. kind of gather to begin with.
Again, with the gore and stuff that you were talking about, like the cannibalism story where they all like rose up and ate a bit of that guy's heart who was eating everyone, so none of them were innocent and all that sort of stuff. I'm like, it's a bit odd, isn't it, Leighton?
When they figure out like that there's like the beef is humans. He's like, something like, enjoy your noodles or something like that to the, or it's kind of like, that's what you get for not giving me any.
There is some humour there as well, isn't there? And like, I don't understand why, like, there's this weird sort of tribalism in the tale where he goes and meets up with his ex-wife who he went in there with, and she's like, I got out. I don't know. Like, I've got no problem here. Like, you're holding something against me, but I don't feel guilty about that at all. I got out of that absolute nightmare of a place where they're feeding us bars of nonsense every day, and I get to live here and have sex with 3 people that I'm in some sort of relationship with, and I get not beef noodles whenever I want. I've got my own bears, and
then she'd have to be Diggs, which was
exactly, yeah. So I see her story. She's fine. So why is he so hung up? Because they clearly had a life beforehand.
Yeah.
The other thing, though, was she blames him. She's like, we could have been dead with everyone else, you bastards. Like, well, you can still be dead whenever you want, love. If you want to be dead.
Stick your head out that armhole. You'll be fine.
That's it. It's your fault I'm not dead. All right. Weirdo.
There's a solution to that. I'll be honest, when I first it's a weird one because I enjoyed the first 2 episodes. I think, I want to see what's going on, especially because when you know about the end of episode 1 when Jennifer Connelly, like the guy addresses her as
Wilfred,
and you're kind of like, huh? Wait a minute, what? But what I liked about that is like how it's like taking on a bit of like a. To me personally, it was like start off with like a bit of kind of put you on the back a bit because like she's walking through, she's in this like one piece like dress suit type thing, all stiff and all like. Like sucking up to all the passengers. You can't she's very hard nosed. Can't get through to her, and then she goes up to her own little quarters, sticks on a hoodie, and lets her hair down, and then she seems a bit human, and you kind of lulled into a bit of like, oh, she's just she's just doing her job, bless her.
Yeah.
And you think, wait a minute, is she up to something? Why is he called her that? You kind of it puts you a bit like false security kind of thing, like, oh, maybe she's just
But as a narrative device, it gives you a place where you can find things out about her, doesn't it? Yeah. Because that's where, that because she's putting on a hoodie, that's where she can be her. And you can put a photo on the inside of that cupboard and then that'll mean something later on or whatever. Or, you can see her doing something there. Or she can then have a real conversation with that guy because he knows. So, you can, the exposition room, that's what that's going to be.
But I love that because for a bit you kind of feel like sorry for her a little bit. If maybe she's got to do stuff she doesn't want to do, she's to look out for herself and to she's in a cracking position here on this big ass train, and then you kind of feel sorry for her. Then you're like, wait a minute, she's up to something now. I don't feel sorry for her anymore. And then, but that's a thing of good writing, good character. You don't want to you don't want to just they're good, they're bad. Go.
It's great for a writer as well, and it's great for TV because you've got a structure set out there quite literally in compartments, and then from like a set building thing, they're all compartments. So you just build whatever compartment you want. Every set is a different compartment. Dead easy. Like it's so easy to do. And then you go outside. All right, we'll go outside every now and again, show you a CGI composite of some mountains, some snow, and a train going through it.
Yeah.
Simple.
When I started watching it, straight away I just got me to the Polar Express, that Christmas film, and I just kind of
could you imagine if the end was Santa?
Polar Express.
I would absolutely love it if they get to the end of it and everyone just gets a bell, even the people in the tails. That's it. Just tring. Everyone believe now. Get back on the train. Okay, it's Santa.
And then Tom Hanks just turns up with a bunch of tap dancing waiters.
I don't think you could put Tom Hanks in this anyway. Tom Hanks wouldn't fit. Unless you can cry to him in the brothel.
Yes.
Do you reckon we need a crying brothel after all this is over?
Probably.
I reckon I could do with a crying brothel now. Just to go down and go like, you put some whale sounds on, I'll just have a bit of a cry.
Right,
brilliant.
we can probably edit this little bit out here, but even if we don't, this will be great listening. But We've got 7 minutes.
I know. I was thinking that we're going to have to edit quite a bit of stuff out, I think, actually, if we have to. We have got 7 minutes. So overall, Sean, do you think Snowpiercer, keep watching?
I will.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that when I finished watching episode 2, I was like, I want to watch episode 3 now. But it was like 10 to 1.
But we can't for the podcast.
Then I thought, I'm in no rush to watch it, which is weird. But no, I'm definitely going to keep going because it's an intriguing story.
I'm desperate to watch season 2, so you better keep watching so we can do one of these every 2 weeks and get to season 2 because I don't want to spoil that or anything like that. So let's go. Next section. All right, here we go. Next section. Sean, you introduce this one.
Well, this is what we're going to call Best of the Worst. So I found a list. I can't remember how many the number is exactly, but it's a boatload of like the worst reviewed and rated films on Rotten Tomatoes. So we're going to maybe go through that list.
I can't wait. So excited.
But what we're going to maybe do is have a look at some films that pretty much did not get a good reception when they came out and try and look for the good stuff within it, if there's any. And today we're going to talk about Speed 2, Cruise Control.
The best title for a film. Yeah. You could put, if every sequel was just called Cruise Control, that'd be better, wouldn't it? Fantastic Beasts, Cruise Control.
Mission Impossible, Tom Cruise Control.
Yeah. The Matrix 2, Cruise Control. So for straight off the belt there, great. I loved this when it came out. I don't like it as much now that I can, I'm not a child. But
I remember liking it when I was a child.
Yeah.
Haven't watched it in about maybe 10 years. And spoiler, I'm no longer a child. Yeah. And so, like, I was trying to get, I've got like about 2 or 3 pages on my notes here of negatives. and about a page, maybe a page of positives. But, so very briefly, I don't think I'll need to go into it. But yeah, Speed 2, Keanu Reeves isn't there. Sandra Bullock is. And they get the guy from the Lost Boys.
So the thing is, like, it's notable that Keanu Reeves isn't there because he was meant to be. This was written. Yeah. He was meant to be returning. And you can tell that he was meant to be returning. This would have been a way better progression of their characters if he'd been returning.
Yeah. And apparently he was like, he got signed up to do some other film. I can't remember what it was. And he was just like, I can't come back, I've been signed to do something else. And they were really not happy about it.
Yeah.
And apparently they tried to put this negative like campaign out to like put a slur on his name, which didn't, to my knowledge, didn't really affect him. He's doing all right.
But so when you said when we agreed to watch this, when you made me watch this, when you said we had to watch it, I bought a DVD for £1.25 off the eBay, and it arrived in time. Looked like I was going to have to rent it for £3.5, which I wasn't keen on. So it came with a trailer. So before I watched the film, yes. I thought, I'll get myself pumped up. I'll watch the original trailer for this and see what happens. It shows the entire film. We complain about things showing too much now. Yeah. It's got the end in it. It's got everything. Everything is in the trailer. It takes you right up to the boat crashing into the town, which obviously you need to put that in the trailer because they spent way too much money.
Well, that was one of my little trivia bits I've got about it.
And it also, at the end of the trailer, it's got the soundtrack listing, which, from the 90s, it's got UB40, who appear in the film. UB40 are in the film.
I forgot that.
Shaggy! Shaggy's in it.
That's one thing I was going to say. I totally forgot that they were like the house band on the boat.
House band is UB40, yeah.
And one thing I've always remembered for it, you know what I'm trying to say. The one thing I remembered is the songs that they used in it. I don't know why. I always remembered the music and the songs, and there's a bit of reggae and it's a bit of this. It just stood out for me.
It's just like the beginning is like a Disney film. Like it's just all score. It's like, shut up. What's the guy's name? I can't remember the guy who did the score. But yeah, it's all score at the beginning. Core blimey. Just a lot of music. And it was just bongo drums. There's a bit as well, and I got this in my positives because I thought it was hilarious. The engine fails and everyone's panicking in the ballroom. And there's just like this bongo thing going on in the background. It's not in the scene. It's part of the sort of background score. And you're like, where's this coming from? But I loved it. And also, Sandra Bullock mentioned Suicide Squad.
Yes, she does.
Like,
I guess what they refer to the SWAT team as, isn't it? It's like the Suicide Squad. Because one thing I've got on me negatives, just because it's right at the start. Why is the SWAT team worried about a guy who stole some computers? I don't, because that's all it turns out to be, stolen computers, and they've got a SWAT team on it.
Yeah,
and unless I missed something, I was like, why is he risking his life like this on his
I think
motorbike?
this must be the one film that the Fast and Furious team watched, because that's all about stolen DVD players to start off with as well, isn't it? You know?
Yeah.
And I also like, because they're all fly out the back of the van as well. So you know, that guy is lost, big style sort of thing. But why is he on a motorbike? What's his name? Is it Jason Patrick? Why is he on a motorbike? Why is it so badly edited, that action scene?
Yeah.
I got whiplash trying to figure out where I was. It was like a Michael Bay card. We're meant to be doing good things, aren't we? Good things, think good thoughts. The instructor, the driving instructor, was hilarious.
Yes, so funny.
And I'm really glad he came back right at the end as well. I'm like, yes.
It is a little bit of a negative, but I was thinking at the beginning, why is she getting these driving lessons? Why? Yeah. I couldn't really figure out, but then I didn't care. But one thing I was going to say about good things, right? So I think for the time, was it 96, 97? I think I made a note, but I can't remember. It looks good, like visually, in terms of like what they do near the end with the boat and stuff like that, and how it's like, you know, the
it's so slow though.
It is.
It's like dun 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 dun. 10 knots, Captain. Dun 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 dun. 9.5 knots, Captain. Dun 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 dun.
Who's he telling though eventually? Because Boba Fett and guy from Lost Boys get shot out the window, and I think he's on his own at this point. He's still telling 4 knots. Like, who are you telling? There's nobody else there. But I did like him though. I thought he did it. I thought he was good in that. Scottish guy.
I thought he was great. Yeah, but they spent a quarter of the budget on that crash.
Yeah, I've got here 25 million.
Yeah,
which cost as much as the entirety of the first Speed film.
It did. Yeah, it did. Did you also know that this was one of the most expensive films made that year, and it cost 110 million to make, and it made 168 million back. The first Speed cost 28 million, and it made 360 million back. In that same year, just for context, Tomorrow Never Dies also cost 110 million. I think I like this more though. Titanic cost 200 million. Men in Black cost 90 million. Jurassic World: The Lost World Park cost 75 million. The Fifth Element, Gary Oldman again, 95 million. Con Air cost 80 million. And Face Off cost 80 million. So this almost cost the same as Con Air and Face Off. Con Air and Face Off were brilliant films.
And again, speaking of Gary Oldman, he turned down the role of the villain in Speed 2 Cruise Control.
That's actually, I've got that in my positives, because whoever convinced Willem Dafoe to be in this, they want a knighthood or something. Like they won this game, because Willem Dafoe, the first scene you see him in, he's like that. Where's my golf clubs? He's brought his own golf clubs on a cruise. He's a maniac.
Exactly.
And then the next time you see him, he's like, let's have a bath with some leeches. What's this guy up to? And then he's got that keyboard on his arm that somehow controls the door. Yeah. I'm assuming magic. Like, he's a wizard. So he's come into this like Willem Dafoe, and he brings his own kind of magic to this, didn't he? Like, he hams everything up. Like, Willem Dafoe is one of those, like, I'll do one for them and one for me, but even the one for them is really a bit for me.
Yeah, because to me, I get the fact that he's like, this is a bit over the top and a bit stupid. I'm just going to have some fun with it. But then he's like, you know what? But if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And he's like, it's like, to me, he's like, he part doesn't want to be doing it, and part having the time of his life. Because again, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. But one thing I've got, again, we might be doing positives.
All right, I've got a positive. I've got another positive. Then I can throw in here. We can remain positive about this film, Sean, because this is one that I think I might actually like. The boat scene is terrible. It's too slow. It's rubbish. It's the opposite of Speed, right? But just after that is the action finale that you really need in that film. You could have cut out the boat scene and gone straight to chasing down Willem Dafoe on a jet ski, there was that release button had been there for the last half hour whilst his boat was crashing. Sandy Bollocks could have just done that straight away. And then you would have been straight into the end action scene. You wouldn't have needed the tanker thing anyway, because that tanker thing was just, well, they're not going to crash into a tanker, are they? Because we've already seen that they crash into the town in the trailer. But that final action scene where he flies away in the plane and then he gets caught on the top of a tanker and then he blows up.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
He just laughs.
And you've got the Jamaican guy that's on a date with that lass, like, and they just like, I'm LAPD, I need your boat. And like, we're in the Caribbean. Get off me boat.
Yeah. Because one thing about the tanker, right? What I got right. So if I can find it, because I remember laughing at myself when I was reading it, when I was writing it. So they're going towards the oil tanker, and I can't remember exactly where it was, but they're at one end of the tanker, and say when you're watching it on screen, they're at the left end of the tanker, and they turn right down the entire length of the tanker to dodge it. So why did you just go a little bit left? You would have missed the fucking thing. You went down the entire end of it, nearly capsized the boat.
I didn't notice it because it was so ridiculous by then anyway. I mean, St. Patrick's under the water, like getting wrapped into that propeller, and then like, why didn't like the real Willem Dafoe, the actor himself, would have shot them all in the face immediately. The character that he's playing here didn't, but he would have just shot them all in the face, dumped them in the water. He didn't care. He was dying. I miss films like this where it's not a terrorist organisation. The villain that's taken over and is the terrorist is just a maniac. He's just got his own reasons, and he's somehow figured out a way he's going to do it.
Because I think, he got fired?
he got like, sick and got fired, basically. He got some sort of illness, so then he lost his job.
Yeah. Because that's the thing, because at the start I was trying to remind myself, what's with the leeches? Why? I thought, well, he's got sick, so he's got leeches. But then it's like, but there's other things you could do. The leeches are just used to make him.
I love how they leave that till the very last minute to tell you why he's got leeches, though, because for like, what, an hour and 40 minutes of this 2-hour runtime, all you know about Willem Dafoe is that he bathes with leeches, and he's like, this is good enough for me, and where's my golf clubs? And he doesn't care about golf, and he's got... I loved Willem Dafoe in this. Cause
I love how they did that as well, because like Jason Patrick, I hated his character. I hate the character. I didn't remember hating the character as much as I did.
He's too good. He's too saccharine.
But he's just a knob though, because he's like I've got here right. Who the fuck does he think he is? That's what I've written.
Well, he thinks he's Keanu Reeves from the first film. That's what he thinks he is.
So he waltzes into the bridge, says he's LAPD, and demands to know, like, what guy are you talking about? What guy? It's kind of like, then the twat jumps onto a lifeboat when the cables are snapping. He jumps onto the boat to help Dante. And it's like, what do you think you're doing? It's just like it's like LAPD. You're in the middle of a cruise ship in the middle of the Caribbean. You've got no, just go with the other passengers. Honestly, and he's just like, I've written it. Just fuck off. That's what I've said.
The thing is, you have to be cool. You have to be Keanu Reeves to get away with that. And there was I reckon this as well, and I'm getting this from somewhere else, and I'll tell you why in a bit. But this is not a bad. Something happens on a cruise. It's a bit of a thriller, and there's a bad guy, and there's some good people, and can we stop him? Sort of film. It's just not a good Speed sequel.
No. And I'm going to have a bit of trivia here. One of the original ideas for the sequel was a plane that couldn't ascend.
I think it was called The Bus That Couldn't Slow Down.
So because something to do with the plane bit at the end when he goes to take off, and they mention something, because that's what the original idea for the sequel was, a plane that couldn't ascend a certain.
So it was just sort of like hovering just above levels, and they had to dodge. Like you could dodge mountains and stuff like that. You could be heading for a city or something. Like, you can contrive anything with that. That would work.
But I wouldn't call it speed. That'd be called.
It would be called altitude, wouldn't
it? And another bit, a random bit. I thought this was fascinating. Right, the almighty Roger Ebert.
Yep, I've got that here as well. Yeah. A truly rousing ocean liner adventure story, only weakened by Bullock's acting. Yes. He loved it though.
Yeah, I've got here that this is the one before he died. He said this is the one film he had to defend more than any other that he reviewed. So I like how everyone universally panned it, but the one who's the most respected film critics, like, I liked it.
The score was all right in this, but it had a lot of work to do because nothing else was doing the work. Like the actual action wasn't doing the work, so you had to have the score making it exciting because it wasn't exciting to watch.
Because that's the thing. One thing I've written here is like positive. Like, I do like the music in it, not just like the fun party Jamaican Caribbean sort of reggae style music, but the actual score that goes with it as well. It's like
dun, 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 dun. I really want to watch Speed now. I really want to watch the first.
I've got to
Speed,
watch the first one again.
Good.
There's some one thing I've wanted to do again. It's meant to be positives, but I think I've gone through them all.
I've got another positive. Mike Haggerty, the maintenance guy from Friends.
Yes.
He's got some brilliant lines in this film.
Yes,
it's like, are there any little girls in there? No little girls, just big women.
Oh, man.
That was my favourite line of the entire film, and it's Mike Haggerty, the maintenance guy from Friends. Absolutely fantastic. The other one that he says is just after they've avoided crashing into that tanker. He turns basically to the camera and goes, I sure hope somebody got that on tape. So yeah, the Oscar for this film goes to Mike Haggerty.
Yes, that's one thing we should do every week on this section.
Give an Oscar to something in the film.
Our favourite bit, he gets it for this one. Well done,
I
sir.
think he gets it. That's all my positives. I can't say anything else.
Because one thing that really stood out to me, and again, it's just made me laugh. So where have I got it here? So I need to read what I've got down here. Because when that girl, she decides to walk off from her parents.
Yes,
the
I think I might have the same thing pointed out here as well.
So she goes in a lift, and about 5 minutes later, the ship has been shaken and go mental for those 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
She's still in the lift. Willem is talking to the crew. He blows up part of the ship, and then she's still in the lift, and that's when she's like, "Oh, I'm shaking a bit in the lift." Like she's still there. She's reacting, and it's but the ship's been going mental for about 5 minutes, and it's like then the other crew members. So Boba Fett, I can't remember the guy's name.
Yeah,
plays Boba Fett.
I think it's Jango Fett, isn't it?
He plays Boba Fett in The Mandalorian. Same guy. He's talking to Willem Dafoe, and he's blabbering away to him. He's got the phone to his ear, and the other crew members are reacting to what Willem Dafoe's saying. So he says something, and then they look out the window. It's like, can they hear him?
Yeah, they can all hear him. He's got the phone to his ear on one side, and he's got a speaker coming out of his other ear. So it's like it's a 90s version of speakerphone. It's like Willem Dafoe's ARM keyboard that can control doors. Not by Wi-Fi, clearly, because they didn't have Wi-Fi then. It was, you had to hang the phone up to get on the internet. If your mum needed to call Aunt Jane, you couldn't watch porn. That was the deal back then. So I don't know how Willem Dafoe's using that. I hate to keep going back to this, but his magic arm calculator that can close doors.
But he only use it once when he needs to. That's what
he does. Yeah,
hi.
So you get one magic. Is that you allowed one magic? The thing that I had about that girl is her mother. Right, when she's gone off and the boat shakes and all the engines stop, it's all going nuts. There's sirens going off, and those lights are all flashing, all that sort of stuff, and her mother goes, "Oh, is she going to be okay? She can't hear the siren. I think she'll get the picture, love. Yeah. Everything's fucked."
Yeah. The lights are flashing, the boat's shaking.
She's trapped in a lift. I think
she's got something. But that's the thing, though. It goes back to her 5 minutes later after all this has been going on. She's still standing in the lift waiting for it to open. You've been in the lift for 5 minutes. Don't you realise something's wrong? The door hasn't opened. How big is this boat?
I looked up to see who she was and if she'd been in anything else, and she hasn't. She's just she teaches sign language in Canada now.
I can't remember seeing anything else. Out of pure interest, I just wanted to know if she was actually hard of hearing or really deaf. I'm guessing she is. She's teaching it.
Yeah, and I really liked how she was only really deaf when it suited Jason Patrick's character.
Because the bit when they're getting pushed away with the water, he's telling her to hold on, and he's telling her to hold on and stuff. It's like,
yeah, mate, okay.
And then the bit where she said, like, "I love you," and I'm nearly 15.
I'm nearly 15. He's like, "Oh, relationships cheat."
And then he doesn't sign. He just speaks to her, like, give her the. No, let her down gently. Not that gently. She needs to know what you're saying. At least sign that to her, you prick. And he just grabs her hand and runs off. She'll be thinking, yes, we're running away together.
Well, I've got one last negative, and I'll see what you think about this, because I thought Paul Greengrass invented shaky cam in 2004 for the Bourne Supremacy. Clearly not. All over this thing.
Yeah.
Why's that?
It must have been like that's probably the one thing that's came out of this film. Like, it's the one legacy it's left.
As I mean, a budget of 110 million, they bought a cruise boat and they went on a cruise. They were like, right, Sandra Bullock, do you want to come on a cruise?
Yeah. Well, apparently there was like 3 different boats used for different things.
What's that? Titanic didn't even use one boat, and it's a much better film.
Exactly.
They also crashed a boat, but they didn't even need to use a real boat. They didn't even need to go to the Caribbean. See how it's done when you're actually trying to make a good film.
They were in a massive swimming pool for a lot of it. I've got another bit of trivia which I thought was just funny, considering that I hate Jason Patrick's character in this. I'm sure he's a great man in real life. I'm sure, I don't know, but he agreed to do the film after wanting parts of the script to be rewritten, and so they agreed to it. Yes, we'll do it. He arrived on set to find out that they had not changed one line of the script, and he was contractually obliged to still do the film.
That's brilliant.
It's a real
it's a real Herman Mankiewicz situation you've got going on there, Jason Patrick, isn't it?
But it's just like, get it in writing.
If it's not in writing, it doesn't stand up. Brilliant. Well, yeah, it's, you know what? It's not as bad. I think I prefer that film to Tomorrow Never Dies from that same year.
Yeah. Well, it's been a while since I've watched that, but
I'll keep the DVD. It only costs us £1.25, so yeah. And I'll do a double bill. I'll watch Speed 1 and 2.
One thing I was going to point out very quickly: the guy who directed it, is it Jan de Bont? I think that's how you pronounce his name. He's only directed 5 films. This, the first Speed, What Happened There, Twister, which I like Twister,
yeah.
The Haunting, and Tomb Raider 2. But he's been cinematography on a lot of films, like Die Hard, Hunt for Red October, Basic Instinct, Lethal Weapon 3.
Shows you, doesn't it?
He's got
doesn't mean you know what you're talking about just because you've done cinematography.
Yeah, just because you can like shoot good films doesn't mean you can.
It works for some people. Like, some people do elevate beyond. Who's that? That happened recently, but I'm blanking on it. I'll forget about it and bring it up another time.
I think I know what you're talking about. Is it the guy who's done all the loads of Christopher Nolan films?
No, but that's another one. Yeah, he did one. Yeah, but I didn't think his was that great, was it? I can't remember. Can't remember what he did. Anyway, we're waffling. Next section. Have a banana. Next section. The trade-off.
The trade-off.
Right, here we go. The trade-off. Right, so this one is where me and Sean have got to give each other homework, basically. We've picked out a thing each, and you can play along at home, listeners, as well. But whatever we give each other, we've got to do. So, Sean, what are you selling me this week?
Right, well, as I said here before we started recording this, we've got to sell these things. I don't know if I can sell this very well. I didn't like this, but I want you to have a watch. I don't think we're going to say, obviously, this doesn't have to be entertainment. This could be anything. So get on Netflix.
Oh, I can do that.
That's it. Just get on Netflix. So you know, like me. We've been talking a lot, like in the past, and like how last time I spoke to you, maybe the time before. Either way, I'm fascinated by space travel. We talked about that thing on Netflix, like a year in space. But this is a drama. It stars Hilary Swank, and it's called Away. And basically, the synopsis on IMDb is: an American astronaut struggles with leaving her husband and daughter behind to embark on a dangerous mission with an international space crew. They're going to Mars.
I've seen 10 minutes of this.
I was like, I'm in space. I'm fascinated by space travel and the International Space Station, stuff like that. I'm fascinated that they're going to the moon, they're going to set up a base. Love it. So I was all in for this. I watched 2.5 episodes. Then I watched the last 10 minutes of the last episode. I skipped all the way to the end because all I wanted to see was about this, because I just wanted this crew to go to Mars. Like, that was sold to me. We're going to Mars. Yes. So you when are you going to get to Mars? Like I was fascinated at the start, like they set up a bit of drama. Like some of the crew kind of lose faith in her because of a mistake she makes on the way to the moon, like a minute into the space flight, and then it keeps going back to Earth, showing her family how they're coping, and it just for me it was like I get it, it's a drama, but I was just like no, you need to just focus on the task in hand here. There's this crew going to Mars. Why do we have to wait till the last episode? You just try to build out more and more series, which is funny because it's been cancelled after one series. So, but they get to, I skipped ahead and watched the last 10 minutes, and when they're going down to Mars, it's great, it's fascinating. But I'm still, when you check out, you said you watched 10 minutes. I think I've done 2.5, maybe 3 episodes. I want you to do the same amount of episodes as I've done. If you have the time, I'll be honest with you, because it's a hard watch. But it's
I'll do that. Because
it's just like to me, it's just it annoyed me. Like there's bits that they try to make drama, which isn't. There's things that shouldn't be drama that is, and it's just like it was too much for like the other stuff that's going on. Not enough. Let's like space mission for me, to be honest. It might turn up because each episode's focused on different characters and their backstory, and it bored me. But I want to get your thoughts on it.
Well, I'll watch 3 episodes and I'll try and come back with something at least a bit funny for like a 5-minute review or something in the next one. Cool. So my trade-off. So I feel like you're really looking out here because what I've decided to give you as homework this week is for one of my favourite bands that I discovered during lockdown last year, when everything was gone horrible. This is a really like sort of nice upbeat thing to get into. You can probably enjoy it with kids and all that sort of stuff as well. They're called the Lucky Chops. I don't know if you'll have heard of them. Have you heard of those?
I haven't.
They do great things for like sort of just instrumental music. I'll send you links to the 4 songs that I want you to listen to, and then you can listen to more if you want. The New York City-born brass funk ambassadors is what they call themselves. Current lineup: Darryl Baruzzi, Josh Holcomb, Joshua Garwell, Adrian Condis, Reginald Chapman, and Patrick Simard on drums. So there's there's a tenor sax, trombone, a trumpet, a bari sax, drums, and Reginald Chapman is I think he's a doctor, actually. He's Dr. Reginald Chapman. He's a doctor of, like, bass and stuff like that, of a tuba. He plays, like, a marching bass bugle, which is nuts. The songs that I'm suggesting don't have the current lineup in it, but if you like it, I would say go on and listen to the most recent album, which I'll also send you. The songs to listen to, if listeners want to play along as well, I'm going for Coco, It's Not Goodbye, Best Things, and Full Heart Fancy. But I could go on forever about songs. It's just they're a really good sort of uplifting band to listen to if you want a bit of cheer up sort of thing. So that's my trade off for you this time.
I think I've won this week.
Well, you might not like them.
I'll come up with it. It sounds good. So aye, definitely I'll get the Lucky Chops. I've written that down. Obviously, going to send me it now. Next time I'll try and come up with a fun one for you.
I mean, this could be anything. Can be fun. Next section. Get your tips out for the pod.
Get them out.
Right, time to get our tips out. Sean, what's your tips for listeners and me this week? What you got?
Right.
Give me your tips. Show me them. Show me them all. Shake them in my face.
So for this one, it's sort of like we're going to say like what we've decided here. What you've got here is like, what's your new thing? And again, it doesn't have to be anything entertainment wise.
Nope, could be anything.
And you don't even have to do this one.
Nope.
Since lockdown started, I wanted to try something new, try something that I haven't really ever done or been good at.
Oh, you bought the sex swing?
Yes, I finally got it.
Hey!
It broke.
You're not going to use it on your own.
It's got rust. It's not been used. So I've always been like interested in art, to the fact that like I appreciate when people can paint and people can draw, and it fascinates me. I like watching people do it. I like watching like landscape artist of the year on Sky Arts.
Yeah, Bob Ross.
Yeah, on Bob Ross. I watched it that much that I can probably Yeah, I've seen that one, seen that one, seen that one. And I went on Netflix. It's been taken off Netflix. Anyway, so I thought I'm going to give it a shot. So I started off with pencil drawing. I found it fun. I watched some stuff on YouTube. Got a bit bored of the whole greyness. So I thought I'll add some colour, and I've started painting. And I've started oil painting, which I've probably started off in the more difficult one. And I've just been. I find it really sort of relaxing. And even if it's like, because I used to think like, oh, if you make a mistake in painting, how you going? You can't just rub that out like a pencil. You can't, you can't just get the tip X and start again. But it's a thing that I should find stressful, but I don't.
Yeah.
And it's just something that, again, it's like obviously you need to buy the supplies, but you can buy decent stuff that's cheap enough. And Amazon's great. There's you can get something to see it the next day.
Yeah.
And so I have been treating myself to some paints, some brushes, some canvases. It's because I think if you've got a creative side like me and you both have, and
I've seen your paintings.
you're into music, you've got that stuff, and
I think we'll let the listeners decide how good the jingles are before you say I've got a creative side. By the way,
but I think it's just a good way to just sort of like, for me personally, just to just relax and just let some time pass by.
It's cool. I'm going to put some pressure on you now because I've seen your paintings and I think they're really good. Will you post them on our socials so that the listeners can see what you've been painting?
Hey,
there's exposure.
I'll some of them. What I would need you is to know that I've only been painting since Christmas, so I am very, very beginner. Yeah. Very, very much. I suppose
I've been playing trombone since I was 10, but listen to the nonsense that you just heard on this today. So it stands for nothing.
But I will do. I've actually. Not so much literally, but I've got my first commission, and it's just such a thing to say. But my mum wanted a picture. Yeah.
She's the listener, so that's good. So, hi, Mum.
So she wanted a picture, and I've tried like seascapes and stuff, but she wanted a dolphin. She loves dolphins, so she wanted a dolphin in the scene. I was proud of my sea. I was proud of my sky. Did not like my dolphin, but my mum loves it. It's already hung up in her bathroom, which shows how much she loved it. Because who goes in there apart from her and my dad?
The thing is, though, you've got to spend a lot of time in the bathroom. Like apart from you're asleep in your bedroom, so you're not going to see paintings in there. Well, you should be asleep.
Yeah.
So no, you're in your kitchen, you're busy cooking, sort of thing. Living room, you sat down, you're probably looking at the telly, if anything. So the bathroom is a place where you might sit and look at something that's on the wall a bit more. So
that's a fair point.
There you go.
That's where a lot of folk keep their Oscars, apparently.
Aye, absolutely. Aye, yeah. Aye, for different reasons, though.
Yeah,
just that right shape and size, aren't they?
Yeah, dirty.
Awesome.
Anyway,
cool.
Get yours out.
Get mine out. Okay. Mine is it is just a Netflix recommendation. Season 4's coming up. I love this. I've just finished it for the second time. Just gone through series 1 to 3. Atypical. I know I've mentioned it to you, but the listeners might not have heard it. I think it's brilliant. It's written by, I don't mispronounce her name probably, Robia Rashid, who worked on How I Met Your Mother for a bit. It's just the way it's written. It's really sort of believable and honest, and the cast bring a massive authenticity to it. They don't overplay anything. It's something that could go so horribly wrong, but they've made this with such love and care that it's really nice to watch. It's just comforting and stuff like that. It's had me in hysterics. When you watch something on your own, you're less likely to laugh than you are if you're watching it in a group.
Yeah.
I've laughed out loud, half asleep at this. It just catches you, sort of thing. And then I've also caught myself crying. But you're not like, oh, I know this is doing this to me now. When like you realise halfway through, I'm crying.
Yeah.
I didn't realise that was doing that to me, but there it goes. It's cast Michael Rappaport's in it. Jennifer Jason Leigh play the parents. Bridget Lundy Payne, who is brilliant. They play the younger sister in the brother-sister dynamic. Kia Gilchrist plays this kid who has autism, and that's sort of what the title of the show's about, sort of thing. But it's an ensemble thing. It's sort of about him, and it's sort of about how he deals with life and all that sort of thing. But it's also not. It's also about just a normal family dynamic and how every family's like this. The brother-sister thing's brilliant. the sister's allowed to wind him up, but no one else is, sort of thing. She's massively protective over him and all that sort of thing. It's played brilliantly by her, and you'll know her from Bill and Ted. Ted. So yeah, that's mine. Season 4's coming up this year, and season 1, 2, 3 are all up there. So I've got no idea whether it actually tracks with people on the spectrum. I'm not the judge of that, but it's really funny without being mean-spirited anyway. So, like I say, it handles it well enough for me that I don't think it'll be offensive to anyone who may be triggered by that sort of thing.
On that, it's like my son's got autism, and I find it, like, personally, me watching stuff like that, sometimes it can be too close to home, and like, I mean, I'll never know until I watch it. But there was a program, was it called The A Word? I think it was called.
All right, yeah.
Quite a few years ago, Christopher Eccleston was in it. Lee Rigby plays the conductor in the Night Bus in Harry Potter.
Yes, hi.
So there, and it was more like to find out the son gets diagnosed, and Ethan had just been diagnosed when that came out. So that was a bit too, because he was a lot younger than the boy in the program. It was a bit too like, this is what the future could be. I didn't like seeing the way the boy was getting treated and all this stuff. So to me, it was just like, nah, this is like a look into what my future could be. Not interested. Nah, can't watch anymore. So I always fear that's gonna like when I watch stuff like that.
I would say maybe give this a go, but don't feel any sort of because if it is going to trigger you, then you don't want to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, it could be completely the right thing for me to watch.
The thing with this kid is that he ends up with a decent enough support network around him that nothing can really faze him, sort of thing. But he still has to deal with everything himself. Yeah, he still has to deal with his own life and everything, and that sort of, and there are conflicts. But it's such a kind-hearted thing that I think it's really nice, and I don't think it'll affect you in that way. But if it does, stop watching it.
It's one thing I've always fancied giving a shot, but it's like dipping your toe in the water before you go in. It's kind of like,
you can ask
to give it
the listener, my mum, hi mum, and dad. They've both watched it, and you could also ask my sister, who've taken up my recommendation, or taken up vicariously my recommendation and watched it. So don't just take my word for it. They might tell you a different story.
I like the folk involved, so
it's really good cast. So that's it. Is that the show? We've done it.
That is.
All right. Okay. Well, thanks for listening. If you got this far, and if you didn't, fuck you. Why are you too good to listen to this?
We don't like you anyway. Get away,
bastards that you are. Follow us on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Whitty Analysis of Feature Films and Light Entertainment, or you could follow us on Twitter, Waffle Podcast 1, or you can send us an email. Tell us what you think of this. Tell us if you've got any ideas for any of the sections. Tell us if you've taken up any of our tips, recommendations, and all that sort of stuff. Email in literally about anything. We'll read it, and we'll have a look through them and see if we can do anything with them on the show. The email address is w.a.f.f.l.e.podd@gmail.com. And in case you didn't get that, I'll do it a little bit slower. w.a.f.f.l.e.podd@gmail.com. Boom.
That is a heck of an email. I love it.
And as we always say on this, send it to the internet.
Love it.
Goodbye.
I'm going to have to remember that. See you later. Have fun with you.
Goodbye.
That was episode 1 of Whitty Analysis of Feature Films and Light Entertainment, or Waffle. Hope you enjoyed it. Do the usual, spread the word, get people listening. We do have a YouTube channel coming up, so when that happens, spread it, share it, like it, all the usual stuff. And join us in 2 weeks for our next episode. Thank you very much for your time.